Hi, should we begin? Are you good?
Yeah.
Sure. Uh, Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening and welcome to our Coexistence in Practice webinar series hosted by Coexistence Consortium. Before we start today's talk, I'll just give you a brief intro about us and the structure of this webinar. So who are we? We are a network of conservation researchers and practitioners from diverse disciplines, united by one common vision to understand the intricate dynamics of coexistence between humans and wildlife. Our mission extends beyond the conservation of the wild animals confined into distant pocket areas of the forest. We emphasize on importance of living well with nature, even in our immediate surroundings. Our collective long-term vision is to employ an experimental and evidence-based approach to catalyze a variety of context-specific human-wildlife coexistence projects worldwide. About the structure of today's webinar now, our speaker will be presenting for 40 to 45 minutes, which will be followed by 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. So now coming to the speaker, I have struggled with her name a lot, like a lot. I've got messages with it. So her name is Sahamatha, and that's what I'm going to learn in this talk. Thank you. And the topic that she'll be talking about is multiple narratives of a big harmless fish. She's a science education researcher and an educator, and her interest lies in interdisciplinary research exploring the interface of natural and social sciences. She has done a master's in physics, which is quite unique, and in University of Mysore. Her research and her interest has led to remote villages in Maharashtra, where she has researched learners' ideas and sense making in science education. She has collaborated a lot with the folk musicians from Rajasthan, Kutch, and Malwa to understand the cultures of teaching and understanding and learning folk music. She's also engaged with fishing communities in coastal Karnataka to explore human and marine mammal interactions. Over to you, Sahamatha.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the introduction. And I would like to thank Seema, Anjali, and all the Coexistence Consortium members for giving me this opportunity. It's really an honor to be here and to be a part of this webinar series. There is a disclaimer before I start the talk because I'm no expert in this field. I mean, the project I undertook a few months ago, it stemmed from pure curiosity, and I don't have much training either in conservation science or in anthropology. So in this talk, I'm not going to theorize anything or, try to fit in to few things inside a few boxes, or I don't want to do that today. Maybe after few years, I might be able to do it or may not. So, so I'm also not going to get into the debate of which knowledge is better. There are these two big epistemological meta categories, science and indigenous knowledge, whether they overlap or not. I will not get into that debate. Also, I am here to share stories I heard, stories that bind humans and other than humans together, stories that matter, and stories that deserve to be heard and told and preserved. All right. So before getting into the stories around me, I would like to talk about my own story because I believe personal narratives are also important. So before I start talking about this big harmless fish, which is the who's a protagonist today. I would like to talk about where I am from, which waters and mountains I belong to, um, and how they are connected to me. So I'm from this small town named Puttur, which is near Karnataka, Kerala border in Dakshin Kannada district in Karnataka. So, so it is a land of deities, land of Yakshagana, or
Excuse me,
many other.
I'm just going to hold. Your slides are not fully visible. Like there's a part of it that's missing. I'm so sorry to.
Oh, okay, okay.
Is it missing for me or is it missing for everyone?
It's missing for me too.
Thank you, Ravi.
Just a second, just a second. I'm really sorry for that. You're still able to see the full screen, right?
Yes, see personal and collective narratives, full screen.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, so where I think I was talking about my story, I guess, right? So yeah, I'm from this small town named Puttur, which is in South Kannada district, Dakshin Kannada. And it is known for many deity worships and like Bhutaradhane, or there is a serpent worship called Nagamandala. And maybe perhaps you all might have heard of Piligobu or tiger dance. So, so it is a land of many such stories. So the nearest mountain where I live is Kumara Parvata, and the waters I belong are Netravati and Kumardhara. So which takes its birth in Pushpagiri range and flows into Arabian Sea. I'm talking about all these stories because it is important to set the context, because otherwise all the stories, whatever you share, whatever you try to tell, maybe perhaps might not make sense to anyone. So I would also like to tell that my mother tongue is Malame, a language which is mostly derived from Malayalam, but it also has borrowed few things from Tamil, Kurgi, Tulu, and Kannada. All right. You're able to see the slide, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So while growing up, the metaphors I listened to were mostly in Malame language. My mother, who grew up interacting with many other than human beings, um, has been influenced by many such metaphors, and I kind of picked such metaphors from her, and while growing up. For example, when she calls someone with red eyes as kupulu, which is greater kaukal in Malame. And if someone has long legs and walks peculiarly, she calls them titiba, which is lapwing. And if I wear the shades of green while going to the field, um, if the top and bottom everything is green, and she calls me pachapambu, which is green vine snake. So I, along with these metaphors, maybe perhaps like many others who have joined today, I grew up reading A.K. Ramanujan's Flowering Tree and other folk tales from India. Many of these folk tales in the book had themes like ecology and conservation, like the flowering story of flowering tree itself. In the flowering tree story, a woman becomes a tree whenever she wishes, and she can uh, get back to the state of human whenever she wishes. And thanks to these stories, and another story which influenced me a lot is Nagamandala, where a snake becomes a man in search of love, um, and many more. And there was not just one story about an animal or bird which influenced me, but there were like many um, narratives of the same species. All right, so these stories kind of unknowingly influenced me, the way I look at world, the way I I think, I talk, perhaps. All right. So this was my growing up years, and then the formal education happened, and maybe I think I kind of lost, tapping into these stories, maybe doing uh, my schooling or undergrad or postgrad. But after I did masters in theoretical physics, I moved to Maharashtra, and I worked with Adivasi schools and students as a science education researcher and educator. So during one of my school visits in Bhamragad in Gadchiroli district, so we a group of my colleagues and other researchers, we had asked students to share an interesting story about their lives, and some of them shared the stories of festivals, songs, and their favorite games. But one student who never felt comfortable standing in front of the board came to me at the end of the class and shared a story of his grandfather. The boy said his grandfather had some mystical powers, and he used to talk to tigers and other animals. So when there was an attack by a tiger in the village in Bhamragad, and his grandfather would go and whisper something in the ears of the tigers, and the tiger would go away without harming anyone. So I kept this story to myself, and I didn't share it with any other colleagues of mine, and I had little faith in this story then. I thought the boy was making up a story of his own. After a few months, when I came home during holidays, I happened to visit a village in Hassan, where just the previous night a herd of elephants had destroyed the crops, broke into houses, and damaged the infrastructure and etc. So while having a conversation um, with one of the villagers, he said, we should have known the way our ancestors used to talk to elephants. They would whisper something in the ears of the elephants and they would go away. And then my jaw dropped till ankle. I mean, I still get goosebumps when I when I remember this story. Uh, I mean, not only because how these, how similar these stories are, but the potential and the capacity of these stories to cross the borders and in different contexts. So, I mean, that taught me something, that before testing the authenticity of any story, I mean, it is important to respect some practices where human and animals try to live in harmony by having a dialogue. Then I found myself in Karwar many years um, after a few years as a part of WCS India project. So I spent some time in Karwar studying the human whale interaction. So I interviewed fishing communities in Majali, Devbag, Baitakol, Maldarwada, and in some parts of Karwar city. So Karwar people belong to Kali River, and while doing the interview, it was an exploratory study. I had no clue about anything, what was happening about in the lives of fishermen, or had any idea of uh, the marine mammals they used to interact. I mean, I had no prior story which kind of led me to that. I mean, I was told that, there is some story, we don't know what it is, and you just go and explore. And every conversation I had with all these fishermen and all the people I spoke to within the fishing community, everyone said the whale is a harmless, poor thing. Papa Adu, meaning it's harmless, and it, it never did any harm to them. And they also told that they consider it as a good omen, and they get good catch if they see a whale. And some of them shared, when they see a whale, they request it to not to harm the people. Um, and there is something, I would like to quote in Kannada only, ನಿನ್ನ ಪಾಡಿಗೆ ನೀನ್ ಹೋಗು, ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾಡಿಗೆ ನಾವಿರ್ತೇವೆ, ನಮ್ಗೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಡ. I mean, you know, you be on your way, we will be on our way, and let's not harm each other. It's some mutual avoidance, like, you don't disturb me and I don't disturb you. Again, there is a dialogue that is happening, and through these dialogues, negotiations that are there, that are happening. So there are different fishing communities like Gabit, Harik, Ambika, Naukada, and all these communities have their own way of addressing the whales. And every name has a name to tell. I mean, a story to tell. For example, Devmasa or Devraminu, Pir Sahib, Husseini Machi. So while talking to one of the fishermen, when he shared that he addresses the whale as Pir Sahib, and the dialogue was something like this, वो पीर साहेब है ना, वो हमारा भगवान है. It was a Konkani speaking fishing community which I interacted with. And I had spent like, almost 17 years in a coastal region and had never heard of anyone addressing whales as P Sahib. And it kind of surprised me and also disturbed me that, I didn't know anything about this. And, even though I grew up next to an ocean, right? And that's when my journey started in search of a story, in search of this story that, why whales are called as Peer Sahib. And as I wanted to know the story, and the journey took me to Aliji's place in Maldarwada in Karwar. So it took a while for me to explain Aliji uh, and him to understand what I was looking for. I tried with words like Pir Sahib, Dev Masa, Dev Raminu, Badi Machi, Whale, etc. And I had a feeling, he wasn't getting this, and or I wasn't getting what he was trying to say. And after few interaction, like, he was like, "You mean that Husseini Machi?" Again, I paused for a while, and he went to his room and came back with a book and started narrating the story of Husseini Machi. So in Maldarwada, the community where Aliji comes from, they call whale as Husseini Machi, not as P Sahib. And all these differences are happening within the range of 5 kilometers, right? So it was a story of Prophet Yunus. And when Prophet Yunus was on a journey by the sea, he boarded the boat, and the boatman said, there is a slave among us, and as long as he doesn't go, the boat will not move. Through casting of lots, and they found that Yunus Ali himself was the individual in question. And subsequently, people throw him to the waters. As fate would have it, a whale awaited with its mouth open and protected Yunus Ali by taking care of him in its belly. And it is believed that Allah communicated with the whale, instructing it to safeguard the Yunus from the harm. So I asked Ali ji, is this the story behind the Husseini Machi, and is this why you are calling whales as Husseini Machi? And he said, well, I don't know the exact reason. We believe that whales understand the language of Almighty, and that's why we treat these majestic creatures as with the highest regard. This immediately reminded me of the woman I had met in Karwar market, a woman from fishing community, and who said, Dev Masa, they call it Dev Masa, uh, it follows God's instruction. It carries pearls and golds in its belly. And there is one more community in Karwar which addresses whale as Devraminu, which is a Kannada-speaking community, and they consider whale as avatar of Vishnu, the Matsya, the giant Matsya. you can see how similar these stories are, how kind of interconnected these stories are, yet they are very much unique in their own way. My journey also took me to one of the whale temples in Vietnam. I mean, I had a chance to visit a whale temple in Vung Tau recently. This was the only thing I knew about when I started studying about human whale interaction in Karwar. I knew there were whale temples, and but I did not know much about it, the stories around it. So, but I happened to visit that place, and at these temples, which come in various sizes. I mean, there are like, in the from one coast to another, like there are many whale temples in Vietnam. I went to the East Coast, and these temples house the whale bones, and fishermen worship in hopes that the prayers will be carried to Ka Ong, the whale spirit, and they will be blessed with safe fishing trip and a beautiful catch. So this is the whale temple I visited in Vung Tau, and you can see the whale bones which are kept there. So this profound faith in the mystical powers of the whales are traced back to different stories in the Vietnam culture, but one that most stand out, or which is widely believed in, um, is the story which comes from the country's history. In the 18th century, Gwen Anne, I might be pronouncing the name wrong, but yeah, a powerful warlord who was on a war against his enemies, and on the verge of getting captured, he prayed to the gods for a way to escape. At that moment, two whales rose from the sea and carried him to his flagship and away from the enemy, and thus ensuring his safety. In 1802, this person became the first emperor of a unified Vietnam kingdom, and thus by starting a new chapter of Vietnam's history. And as a token of gratitude to the gods, Nguyen An declared that all the whales in Vietnamese waters must be worshipped as gods. So this is a one story which is widely believed, but they also believe in some stories from Buddhism, which I could not get, and they also believe in this Matsyavatara, whale taking the Vishnu taking the form of a fish. In some parts of Vietnam, they do practice it, but they're not, well documented. So in keeping with this historical story and many other perhaps personal beliefs also, fishermen consider it is their duty to bring a whale they find floating or catch accidentally to the shore, and to conduct a burial ceremony on the beach, which is dedicated to whale graveyard. After a few years, they take the bones and transfer those bones to a nearby temple, and they establish there. It is um, uh, kind of giving a respect, showing a respect for a parent or an elder. And in some parts of Vietnam, they think, the whale is an elderly father or an elderly uncle, who has chosen their village for his final resting place, and they feel honored and delighted to give a proper ceremony for the whale, which gets uh, stranded. Um, Stories matter, and many stories matter. Uh, we know that stories have the capacity to kill, or maybe also to give birth. If I had only heard the stories of one species harming another species, perhaps I would have never studied about whales or any species for that matter. I mean, there is a need to find many meanings in these stories because they are open-ended, they exist in multiple versions, and they deal with problems that are rooted in local geographies and cultural context. The stories bring home the impermanence of the things around us, and the need for balance. They also vividly tell us the history which we have been ignoring, which we have sidelined. They have the capacity to break the dignity. At the same time, they can also repair the dignity. And when we realize that there is no one single story about um, any place or any species, any human, uh, any waters or mountains, and when there is a space for uh, many narratives and many stories, and that's what lead to coexistence, in my opinion. I feel it is our responsibility to invent, reinvent, tell and retell these multiple narratives rather than sticking to one single story. Um, that might give us a hope for coexistence, or celebrate the stories of coexistence. So I would like to end the talk by asking one question. Not that what is your story, but what are your stories? And please feel free to share your stories. I know there are many. Thank you so much.
Hi. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this wonderful talk and also sharing these stories with us. They were somewhere like really like a window into understanding human and non-human interactions, and also like for us to, for me, like personally, I've always thought about whales not from the Indian perspective, but from an European perspective, because that's the ideas that were bestowed upon us in the way that we read literature. But then there
Yeah.
are so many stories that are there in India, and thank you so much for putting forward. And now we are open for questions. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and like, please ask the speaker. We have one comment by Ravi. He
Sorry, I can't see the comment. I mean,
yes, no
yeah.
problem. I'll speak, like, I'll tell you about it. He says it's a very authentic and moving and a personal narrative. Thank you. Thank you, Sahamatha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I get recorded video of this?
Yes, we will be sharing the recording on the YouTube channel for the Coexistence Consortium. You can. Can you please say who is it?
My name is Bindu.
Oh, sure. We'll be sharing it on the YouTube channel soon.
Thank you.
So I have a very personal question before we
Yeah.
have a question, but okay, I'll just go ahead and ask a question and then we'll read that. And
Yeah.
how did you change I read your bio and I was like, she's the master's degree in physics, and now she's become, and then you come ahead and give stories like nobody ever thought about, kind of a thing. So how did that change happen from, everybody has a personal journey. How is your journey been?
Um, I mean, it wasn't easy for that matter because at times I mean, people in consortium might know me, like, there is always this inside your head, there is this fight between quantitative and qualitative thing, right? So, and I think if, I don't know Rana is in the audience or not. I mean, thanks to Rana, because he kind of, changed my perspective. One of the first people to change my perspective on this. And I mean, there was a paradigm shift, while attending um, talks and particularly interacting with my peers, with the fishermen, with the community, the women from the community. All right, so that's why in the beginning I gave that disclaimer that I don't want to fit all these stories into one box, because I don't know where these stories will take me, right? Or what is the big picture. There is so much uh, to know, and when we don't know much about anything, like, I think, we just have to wait for a while for the story to reveal itself, right? So I mean, it's not an easy journey. I still struggle with myself, but one thing, again, this story is like, the place where I grew up, I had access to, even though it was a small town, I had access to um, many different things. Culturally, it is a very active district, and I I used to listen to a lot of other people's story also while growing up, and that kind of made me to believe in you know interdisciplinarity. All right, and I still believe in taking the projects rather than sticking oneself into one discipline. So I think that's what I'm doing now. I'm still in taking that journey. So yeah.
So Rana is joined, just a comment, Ramna has joined the talk, and Ravi Chelam has made a comment saying Rana happens to all of us. Okay. And there are a lot of compliments by Anjali Astha, but there's a question by Vidyadhar. I'll take that question up. Thank you for your nice talk and sharing your story. It is very similar story on Dev Masa from Konkani fisher folks.
Oh, nice. Would you like to share that story if you know anything about it?
Seema, actually, it's a question. Is there a similar story on Devmasa from Konkani fishing folks? He's asking a question.
Sorry.
Um, Similar in what sense? Like, similar to what? Can you elaborate your question, please?
Yeah, thanks, Smita. So I was wondering whether Konkani fisherfolk also has similar stories on Dev Masa. They may be having many, but I believe if you have small interaction with them, did you get any insights on, why do they say Devamasa is bigger fish, but there is a connotation of considering it as a god. So like Dev is, God. So
Right,
in that
right,
sense, if they
right.
have any insights and you could share with us, it will be great. Thanks.
So I did this project in Karwar region where there are like a lot of Konkan speaking fishing communities, right? The story of Yunus Ali is the story which kind of owned by Maldarwada, not exactly owned, but they share it quite often. But in other Konkan communities, Konkan language speaking communities, so there might be like, if you go up in that landscape, the stories change the way I mean, there might not be similar stories exactly in the Konkan region, but they do believe that they are gods, and they bring good omen, and um, it's seeing a whale will always gives them a good catch on that particular day. So but any other than these stories, like I haven't encountered any, but maybe maybe one day I'll get to listen to another stories also. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Rana, please.
Did I answer your question? I don't know, like, I'm still stuck with what kind of similar stories you were seeking.
That's
So
fine. I mean, I also had no idea about it. I thought I'll just ask you. Thank you.
Hmm.
Rana, please go ahead. You've raised your hand, Rana.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm in a plane. Uh, really enjoyed the talk, Samatha. Just one quick question. You talked about your mother describing you in forms of various other than human species,
Yeah.
depending the dresses you wore or how you looked. I was also wondering whether she sometimes implied the presence of other non-human species on the basis of behavior or attitudes or perspectives rather than just morphology. Do you remember any such events, or have you come across metaphors which are based on
Yeah.
behavior?
I mean, in the talk itself, I shared that if someone has red eyes, the humans, uh, if they get angry, if they have red eyes, and she calls them kupulu, which is kaukal.
Right.
Yeah, and if someone walks weirdly, she calls them lapwing. All right, who has like elongated legs and walks weirdly. And in particularly in my mother's family, they also have stories around, I mean, if say among humans, there is a discussion going on among men, and if they I don't know if I'm using the right words or not, if they locate an alpha in that group, they have they call it as, I don't remember that word, but it is an alpha equivalent to an ox or a tiger, right? Um, so they have such metaphors. Uh, and also, I didn't share that story of my mother's, like, she keeps talking about one wild animal visiting her farm, and we don't know what it is, and they have a particular name for it in that language, and they used to sing a song to make it run away from the field. and they still, you know, for fun, they sing that song at times, and yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Sahamatha. I think we should have more conversations because what I'm really looking for is what kind of insights people have into the behavioral sort of performances of other than humans, and which might reflect ways in which they look at the world, other than humans look at the. Yeah. So we'll talk about it again. Thanks very
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Hi, we have a question from
Huh.
Asta. Is there any historical monument in the coastal where you can see fish in the old architect? Asta, if you can unmute yourself and elaborate the question.
Okay. Hi, Sahamatha.
Hi, Asta.
Hi, Sahamatha. Actually, in North India ना आप जब भी old architect देखते हैं ना, even like in the Lucknow, if you see the like Imambara, Bada Imambara, and all other architects, you can see they like in front of the gate, बहुत बड़े बड़े fish के ये motif और designs बना होता है. So I'm wondering कि is these kind of the architect still in like can be found in the coastal area too?
Yes, I mean, how big it is a question. Like, they in the context, if you're asking from the context of if they are whales or not, I don't know. I didn't see any whale monument in front of any buildings, but there are fishes for sure in
Okay.
front of temples, or even uh, the gates of the houses also have such fishes. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have just
Hi, Sahamatha. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi, Sahamatha. I'm Vivek. I just
Hi.
have I just have a question to think aloud with. There is a lot of um, like you were talking about. Um, um, I mean, allying with the um, imagery, right? And this seems to be continuously of imagery, which the human conflict has constantly been. Like in Anantapur, when we have groundnut, when we sow groundnut, it's always that people stay awake and try to shoo away the wild boar. Or I've heard stories that they pray to the wild boar ki तुम थोड़ा crop ले लो और थोड़ा हमें भी let us also live. So the imagery throughout even in Dashavatara has been of wild boar, of this fish, of different elephant, etc., monkeys, and whom we have not been able to in any ways tackle. Uh, I mean, I'm not having a coherent line of thought here, but it seems to me like that. Whenever there is a conflict, this sort of bowing down to nature is coming across. um that's and also for some reason when you were talking about the story about a whale catching the person, and this sort of fictionalization narrative, even in Dune. um, I'm sorry, I'm taking very vastly, but Ras Al Ghul is the god of the desert, and riding the god is sort of like princely, etc., etc. So it's very fascinating how the fictional narratives are interwoven. Yeah, that's all, Sahamatha. Thank you. It was a great presentation. Yeah.
Oh, uh, Yeah, I mean, initially, even I had thought of like, talking about these belief systems and how they exist in different religion or even different communities. For example, like I'm more fascinated by the Nagamandala ritual in South Canara in my district. But like again, you can't maybe restrict yourself to that one narrative or maybe perhaps that one belief system. There might be many stories behind it, so I didn't know much about it, like and many lenses also come into a picture, and they kind of force you to look from that particular view only. So uh, I I think digging into the roots of story. Yes, it is maybe perhaps important, but also the parallel narratives which get constructed uh, along with these stories are also important, whether they have a root or not, whether they fit into a belief system or not. So that's why so I didn't talk much about it, and it's a question to myself also, whether do I really believe in it or do I really have faith in it. It's a long journey, right? How, what to believe and what not to believe, and how your values fit into all these beliefs. So yeah, I don't know whether I answered your question or not, but that's what I yeah, Rana, yes.
Hi, I'm not sure who made the comment just before this. I'm sorry, I can't see the names. But I just wanted to say that in the course of some of the work that Charlene Banerjee and I have been doing in Assam, looking at how farmers perceive elephants, it's very interesting that some of the grains that they grow outside solar fences for the elephants is not because the elephants compelled them to do so, but because they themselves believe that the land belongs to the elephants. They were here before them. And in fact, it's very interesting that they don't even use the word Hathi. They use Swami, Baba, Bhagavan. They use these terms in reverence of the elephants. And they feel that they are the intruders who have taken away the land that originally belonged to the elephants. So sometimes I think that the kind of empathy that is shown is not simply because they cannot control uh, the elephants, but because there's a very deep respect for other beings. And this, I think, also should be explored to a great extent. Of course, these might be specific for certain communities or even certain belief systems within communities. But I think that's another aspect that I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to. Hey, thanks again, Sahamatha.
Thanks, Rana.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, Bindu. Yeah.
You were talking about whale worship. So I wanted to know, is only whale worship, not to other species,
Other
other
ma-
species of fish?
like marine mammals uh,
Yeah, I'm
or
talking about fish. You were talking about only whales worship now.
right,
Ask,
right.
I'm asking about other species of fishes.
In the coastal region, so they also see, the whale worship, the word I use worship for mostly for the Vietnam's narrative. So what is happening in Karwar? So I would still rather call it as an interaction. Okay. And yes, apart from whales, they also show respect to dolphins, all right, and turtles. And they have a whole system developed for turtles in Karwar. They know when they come, when they hatch, when they want to go, when all the things happen, they know it. But interestingly, while interviewing the fishermen, they don't like porpoise. They call it as a duplicate dolphin or something, and that was interesting to me. But I didn't explore much about it because I was also kind of, focused my study on whales at that time. But yeah, so
Oh, thank you. Nice information. It's interesting to me.
yeah.
Actually, I thought if they worship all the fishes, then what about the catching practices? So I asked this question.
I mean,
They
what
they do
exactly?
fish catching, no?
Yeah.
They do fish catching practices.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Thank you. One more question. Uh, if I want to contact with you, so how can I do this?
Yeah, I think I'll write my email ID. I don't know. It's sahamatha@gmail.com. So
Shamita@gmail.com,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
Oh.
not Samatha Sima.
I missed an edge. I'm going to struggle with your name, I guess, till the end of this. Yes. So there are comments by Vivek, and
Yeah.
if we have, do we have any more questions? If we do not have any more questions, anybody has any more questions? Yes. Are you able to see the question?
Yeah. How do they talk about fish they catch? Can you elaborate your question, please, Chaitanya?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So my question is basically, are there stories about the fish that they catch? Are they in some way similar to the whales? Are they different from how they talk about the whales? Because the whale it's an uncatchable fish, right?
Right.
Like,
Right. Hmm.
so, like this idea of respecting the whale,
Yeah.
but then is respect given to the fish that they catch as well?
This
Something like
I have not explored. I mean, honestly, I not explored. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting question, but I don't know about particularly about some particular species of fish. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I mean the stories about dolphins and turtles, like
Mhm.
those are all already interesting points of departure,
Right.
because they are different species from whales, but they also seem to be given this kind of respect. So,
Right.
what is similar in those cases, right? It would be an interesting question to ask.
Yeah. Yes, Rana, again.
Hey, sorry to butt in again. I was just thinking about this relationship with fish catching. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in Bengal, where the hilsa or the ilish is a very,
Mm-hmm.
very popular delicacy, there is this belief that Durga, during Durga Puja, during Dashera, Durga
Mm-hmm.
has to be bid farewell. You have to say goodbye to her when she leaves with hilsa. So on Vijayadashami Day, there are many families who actually cook hilsa, right? But then, once the goddess leaves, she apparently takes away the hilsa with her. And you're not supposed to catch hilsa next till you welcome Saraswati in February, March with the hilsa again. Now, what is very interesting is that this story seems to have a parallel in that the spawning season of the hilsa is from October, November till February, March. So, in a way, perhaps these stories have come up to spare the fish when they are spawning. And so this could be, at one level, be taken as a mark of respect to the life histories of the species. Of course, the other alternative explanation could be that you want more hilsa next year, so you let them breed. But whatever it is, it's fascinating that to bring in these practices, which other people may not necessarily follow, and which may have an ecological basis, you take recourse to mythology, you take recourse to the gods and goddesses
Right,
and the
right,
pantheon to
right.
enforce these practices. And I don't think I've ever explored this further because unfortunately people who knew the origins of these stories are passing on with the passing of generations. And I don't know whether these stories will remain anymore. But nevertheless, since I think Chaitanya or someone asked this comment, I had this comment about are there stories about catching fish? I thought I'll just share this with you as well.
Oh,
Sorry to
thanks
keep butting in,
for
but
no.
thanks, Sahamatha, for making me
Thanks
think.
for yeah, there is one question. Did you get to see any impact of capitalism on this uh, human animal? I would restrict the conversation to human marine mammal here. Um, um, See, the direct impact of capitalism in one way. Um, the stories are lost, right? I mean, they're getting lost. And how the capitalism is impacting on it, because these 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 landscapes or these places shared by many human and other than human beings are occupied by humans, uh, but only few humans, and they are running the game. And that we can see in Karwar as well. A very simple example, the number of resorts which are increasing rapidly from post-COVID time. Even a few of the fishermen I spoke to, they don't want their kids to follow the same occupation, and it's scary, but it's also their decisions, right? And all decisions are negotiations. um, so I think it is everywhere, and I didn't really want to touch upon that aspect of it because we have other stories also here to tell, to celebrate. Maybe at times we can use these stories to gain power also, perhaps, when it is necessary. Yeah. So there was one more hand.
Yes, Prashant.
Yeah.
Prashant, do you
Yeah.
still have a question?
No, there was no question. I actually just wanted to reinforce what Mr. Rana was saying. So I was just seeing this video of a European photographer, environmentalist, who had visited Bigwan. Bigwan is a sanctuary very close to Pune. And he mentioned saying that in this area, there was a farmer who was actually growing, I think, jawar crops. And he said that essentially most of the people are using pesticides there, but he actually created a plot where he didn't use pesticides. And what he then found was that more birds came to his acreage of farm, and they ate the insects, or they ate these insects which were harming the crop. He said that as a result, what happened was that I got a crop which was not, the yield was not as much as what I would get if I did use pesticides, but the crop that I got was essentially far superior. It didn't have pesticides, and so it's like the balance between not using pesticides and using the natural birds to kill the insects.
Thanks for sharing this, Prashant.
So with that, it's really late for Sahamatha. She hasn't still had dinner, and it's going to be her dinner time quite soon. She's sitting out from Singapore and giving this talk, so it's really important. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, a very big thank you, and thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for this presentation. Thank you for sharing your stories, and if you want to get in touch with her, you all have her email IDs, and we'll be uploading the talk on YouTube quite soon. Hope to see you soon in the next webinar series.
Thank you so much for listening and sharing your stories also. Thank you, and sorry for that technical glitch that happened. So
Thank you.
happen. Yeah.
And I'm so sorry for mispronouncing your name like multiple times.
You'll get there. No
I'll
worries.
get there. I'll get there, Sahamatha. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.